Coming up on AgweekTV, what's the likelihood of Congress getting immigration reform done yet this year? I'll have the story coming up.
On the Soil Health Minute, we'll check back on a field that had cover crops interseeded into corn last summer.
We'll take you to Lisbon, North Dakota, where we'll see a dairy that's the second of its kind in the United States.
And Poet breaks ground on a $5 million expansion at their ethanol plant near Mitchell. Welcome to AgweekTV. I'm Michelle Rook. Trump administration officials are working to modernize the H-2A visa program to bring in foreign farm workers. The announcement comes as the House is planning to vote on the immigration bills in June, including one led by Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte. His H-2C program strengthens immigration enforcement, but overhauls the H-2A system, including moving it from the Department of Labor to USDA. The vote in the House will take place prior to the Farm Bill vote. The big question is, what is the likelihood of passage? Immigration reform has long been a political hot potato in Congress, and in an election year, the stakes are even higher. So what are the odds of getting legislation passed before the end of the year?
I would have to say, honestly, as much as I like to be optimistic, that is a long shot. And if we do get something moving, it's going to be a very, very tough issue to get wrapped up, particularly before the election.
House Ag Committee Chair Mike Conaway says although an immigration fix is long overdue, he's also doubtful.
I'm not clear that everybody in the conversation actually wants to get to an answer, gets to a deal, but clearly I do.
Conaway and the dairy industry have been backing Congressman Bob Goodlatte's H-2C guest worker program, but need to find a new way to move it.
Unlike other sectors of agriculture, which at least have the H-2A temporary visa program, we can't even use that in dairy because our labor needs are year-round.
And time is of the essence as the ag labor crisis continues to worsen.
The need is there. Clearly, after all this lengthy period of time of high unemployment, Americans don't want those jobs in particular, and so it's now time to deal with an ag worker plan that allows our producers to continue to do what they do best.
The other challenge is even with the political will, immigration reform may get lost in the congressional agenda for the balance of 2018. Ethanol and Ag Group sued the EPA this week for their recent approval of small refinery waivers from the Renewable Fuel Standard. They argue the agency abused its power, granting 3 recent plant hardship waivers and didn't publish the final actions taken in the Federal Register.
That's really lowered RIN prices. That's really had a very detrimental impact on renewable fuels and in turn on farmers who we represent.
EPA granted 40 such refinery waivers in 2016 and 2017. The lawsuit was filed in the U.S. Court of Appeals in Denver. Farm state lawmakers have introduced legislation to help solve the problems created for livestock haulers with the Electronic Logging Device, or ELD, rule. The Transporting Livestock Across America Safely Act would give American agriculture the flexibility to safely transport livestock. Under current Department of Transportation rules, after truckers drive a 150 air-mile radius from the origin of their load, they can drive 11 hours and must rest for 10 hours. That puts livestock at risk, especially in summer and winter months.
The Department of Transportation is not going to give us near enough hours to drive in order to make sure that we can get cattle to market. And it's still an animal welfare issue.
The bill gives truckers the flexibility they need to get cattle, hogs, and other live agricultural commodities to their destination. Just a week after the U.S. and China agreed to drop tariffs to avert a trade war, threats were renewed. The Trump administration announced the U.S. was imposing another $50 billion of tariffs against China unless a deal could be reached. The list of products will be released June 15th. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross is leading a delegation in China trying to negotiate a trade deal. Iowa State University data shows pork producers have lost $2.2 billion since March 1 due to retaliatory tariffs. Meanwhile, the U.S. is also putting steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and the EU. They had been previously exempt. Success in today's dairy industry revolves around efficiency and technology. Mikkel Pates visited a robotic rotary dairy in Lisbon, North Dakota. That's only the second of its kind in the U.S. and only one of 4 in North America.
The Quall family has been involved in dairy in Ransom County since the late 1940s. Last year, brothers Alan and Rodney Quall, along with their sons, pulled the trigger on a massive technological upgrade.
It's kind of a legacy move on our part. It's a big move, but I feel like it's, we've done several budgets, and I think it should work.
The upgrade included a huge state-of-the-art freestall barn for about 1,000 cows. Neck tags constantly monitor how much each cow moves and eats. 2 indoor weather stations control nearly 100 fans that generate a 6-mile-per-hour wind at the middle of the barn.
When it's running properly, it's air exchanging the whole building in a minute and a half.
The 320 by 365-foot barn also features robotic feed pushers and alley scrapers.
Since it moves so slow, they're not fazed by it at all. So each pen is completely cleaned every 2 hours.
But the centerpiece of the upgrade is a robotic rotary dairy parlor, just the second of its kind in the United States.
And efficiency is what it's all about, and this is, to us, appears to be a very efficient system. We're getting a cow on and off every 10 seconds based on what we're doing right now.
The robotic rotary, which has 60 stalls, makes a full rotation every 9 minutes and can milk up to 250 cows an hour, twice a day.
Almost 90% were getting on by themselves within 4 milkings, and now they're milking each pen in about 45 minutes. Within 4 milkings, we're down to almost full speed. When the cow comes in, it identifies her here with her neck transponder, so the operator can come in and take a look at the screen and know what's happening in the rotary for each cow that's on here.
Once in a stall, the robots go to work.
In the front of each one of these arms, there's a 3D digital camera that views the teats of the cow hanging down from the udder. It remembers what the height is each time that cow comes in.
A pleasant surprise how well it attaches on cows that might not have a perfect udder. So it'll never over milk a teat because they're all coming off individually off the cow. So your udder health is excellent.
As she is milking out, the color of that piece of that pie with her number on changes color to that darker green as she reaches her average.
Most cows are finished milking in 5 to 6 minutes.
It turns to this gray color once she's totally done.
A standard rotary parlor this size would require 4 employees. The robotic parlor only needs 1.
It's such a labor-intensive occupation. With a shortage of labor, this is just something that looked very promising for the future.
There's so many different opportunities and flexibility to what we're doing milking cows now because of this parlor that's been a real huge benefit.
The operation produces more than 10,000 gallons of milk every day. In Lisbon, North Dakota, this is Mikkel Pates for Ag Week.
The Qualls can now milk 1,100 cows in 5.5 hours with only 2 or 3 people. Just ahead, this week's market analysis and some early death losses due to the heat have producers on alert.
Micro Essentials is a premium phosphate product. It's a dry granular product. The main difference with a Micro Essentials type product is you have a homogeneous granule where the nitrogen, the sulfur, the phosphorus, and in this case the zinc is all in one granule. If you ever have a desire or a need to learn more about what does sulfur do within a soybean plant, what does the potassium do for the corn crop, we have microessentials.com. We also have a great resource, cropnutrition.com.
Superior Grain Equipment offers storage and drying solutions designed for your grain handling needs. Mixed flow grain dryers from Superior offer even heating to reduce heat stress cracking, so you get higher quality grain, higher test weights, and better prices. Plus, they use half the energy of conventional screen dryers. Experience cost savings and superior grain conditioning. Make the superior choice today with Superior Grain Equipment.
Get your row crops off to the right start with an Early Riser Case IH planter from Titan Machinery. Case IH Early Riser planters feature high-tech yet rugged planter row units that quickly adapt to the toughest seeding conditions, while leaving an optimal seed bed to promote early, uniform plant emergence. Only Case IH Early Riser planters are designed to leave a flat-bottom seed furrow, ensuring consistent seed depth and even emergence. Contact your local Titan Machinery location today for more information on the next generation of planting technology from Case IH.
Intelligent farming means more crop from every acre. That starts with smart machines and precision application. Introducing the new Rogator C-Series from Challenger, featuring a newer, smarter, more precise way to apply fertilizers and nutrients, more accurately and more efficiently than ever before, resulting in less overlap and less crop damage, all to make you more productive and more profitable. To find out more, contact Butler Machinery today.
Crop progress has moved ahead of 5-year averages, and the first corn condition rating of the season was above expectations. U.S. corn is rated 79% good to excellent, which matched the previous record and is above last year's 65%. Ratings were extremely high across the entire region. U.S. soybean planting progress continues ahead of normal, and that trend follows in most of the region except for South Dakota. Spring wheat planting is nearly done, and emergence is right in line across the region. And with recent rains, winter wheat conditions improved 2% nationally, 4% in South Dakota, and 5% in Nebraska. Joining us this week with market analysis is Luke Swenson with The Money Farm. And Luke, let's talk a little bit about the grain markets from a technical standpoint. It was kind of a tough start to the week, especially with a lot of end-of-the-month type liquidation, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of... Technically, we massacred it if you look across all three grains. 4 1/4 had been big resistance on D's corn for basically a year. Beans 1050, 1060 have been 2 big points that we've been hitting on, and wheat at 650. We went into the weekend hitting all 3 of them, but not really closing much. And then we came off bearish news from China, middle of the road news on currency and crude on Monday. Political news just kind of boiled over into fund selling, and Monday holiday, Tuesday we just fell apart, and it was a big key reversal basically in all 3 markets. So going into a weather market, we're adding volatility, but at the same point we're just building bigger resistances, so it's kind of making it an easier point to sell a little bit, but we still think the market's going to be spring-loading going forward just due to how the climate is actually setting up.
As far as the technicals of that market, though, how much do they matter here when we're in a weather market?
They do, to a sense, where it's the more you hit up against them, it just becomes psychological more than anything, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if we hit 4 1/4 and fall off, hit 4 1/4 and fall off, that over and over can hurt us. But the nice thing is say we come out with 95-degree weather and no rain in the forecast next week, and that's going to hold for 2 weeks. As soon as the funds blow through that, it just becomes a floor. They can hold it, and it becomes, in that way, a bigger floor, and we can rally off of it even stronger. So while the point becomes more divisive, if you get through it, it becomes that much better for us in the long run to rally out.
There was a lot of farmers selling, though, when we got up into those areas on the charts, wasn't there?
Yeah, we're seeing from our commercial clients, we're probably seeing them about 3 times as hedged as they were last year going into fall. I mean, we had customers that handled 20 million bushels of corn that had 1 million bushels hedged going into harvest, and they're already sitting on 3, 4. So you're seeing farmers this year actually lock in some profit and secure some of that opportunity, where the last couple of years they've watched these rallies come to this 4 1/4 area, and they've been greedy for an extra quarter or 10 cents, and then it falls apart, and they've rolled the whole way into winter without it. So we're excited to see a lot of people actually taking advantage of it this year and locking in profits.
And the funds are long, but they still have a lot of room to go even longer if we get into a weather problem, right?
Yes, and with that, it's, they've bounced up against records early on in the year, and then they've pulled back, and it's just kind of been the springboard of, we beat up the Argentine shrinking bean crop story for 3 months. And once they started stepping aside of that, once we started planting acres, and after the acreage report blew out, they've backed off a little bit, taken some profit, and we've stepped back. We pushed back to $10 a week and a half ago and rallied out of it on bullish China news. So when they start jumping back in, I don't think they're going to run into a lot of resistance for 30, 40 cents, because the farmers that have gonna sell grain at 10.30 to 10.50, they've sold it. So you're not going to see the big farmer resistance against them on the way up to the upper 10s if we get another run.
You mentioned China. How do you trade this thing? Because one week we have a deal, the next week we don't. It is just like a ping pong match.
Close your eyes and flip a coin. What we've been telling our managed customers, and we fired off a big breakdown of there's about 15 things in this market that can probably move us 2/3 of a limit move or more. How many are weighted to bullish and how many are weighted to bearish? We think it's in the favor of bearish, but the thing is we're going to come back Monday and China's going to say, all right, we're going to buy an extra 150 million bushels, and all of a sudden ending stocks are tight and we're at $11. That is a realistic possibility, but going into that, you can't plan for those home run scenarios. You need to protect some profit and work your way out and average that and keep averaging up your price as you go.
Thanks for joining us. That is Luke Swenson with The Money Farm. And if you want to hear our extended conversation, go to our online product, agweek.com. Still ahead on AgweekTV, a bill to improve the government's response to drought events. And later,
coming up on the Soil Health Minute, we'll see how one farmer used variable rate to seed his cover crops.
I'm 120, 130, 130, 55, once around the block, 212, 5 right here, now have them times up. So
if you're thinking about selling a piece of land, or you're looking to sell some farm equipment, or if you're thinking about a retirement or involved in an estate, give us a call. We'll sit down and tell you all about the Steffes way. We think it's a good way. That's how we approach it. If any of those are in your plans, give us a call or go to steffesgroup.com. Learn all about us. Hope to hear from you.
Get ready for the biological revolution. Enhanced by Ag Concepts is a scientifically designed foliar fertilizer formulated to quickly deliver essential nutrients to your crops for the greatest possible yields.
I had a hail incident and I only had maybe beans that were 4 inches tall. I put some Enhance out. That seemed to really bring my beans back. Got 40 bushel beans compared to a 0. That's the best dollar ever spent.
Join the biological revolution with Enhance by Ag Concepts.
Luckin Trucks and Parts sells quality used parts for all makes and models. With over 50 acres of trucks and parts and new inventory arriving daily. Family owned and operated since 1966, Luckin's specializes in the sale of quality used medium to heavy duty truck parts as well as pre-owned trucks, trailers, and construction equipment. If it's on a truck, we got it. Call us today and let us get you your part.
Advanced Grain Handling is your regional dealer for grain handler dryers, bins, and accessories. With Grain Handler's continuous mixed flow drying systems, you're capable of high levels of grain dryer efficiency on all types of grain, including seed grain. Advanced Grain Handling also carries West Steel's quality stainless steel products for on-farm and commercial grain storage solutions. Advanced Grain Handling has licensed and trained service techs and a licensed electrical shop. Get a hold of Chad Kylo to find the perfect solution for your farm.
South Dakota Senator John Thune has introduced a bill to improve the government's response to drought events. The legislation would provide USDA the tools and direction to improve the accuracy of the drought monitor. It would also require the coordination of USDA agencies that use precipitation data to determine livestock grazing, disaster assistance, and stocking rates. The recent above normal temperatures this spring have led to some livestock deaths in the region. SDSU Extension veterinarian Dr. Russ Daly says the loss was a result of cattle not being acclimated to the heat and humidity.
It just seems like it was a few weeks ago we were having some really cold temperatures, and now animals are having to deal with 100 plus, and it doesn't always work out that well for them.
The losses aren't covered by insurance but may qualify for the Livestock Indemnity Program. Daly says this serves as an early reminder to livestock producers to help prepare their herds for summer heat stress. This week's Crop Stop takes us to Wyndmere, North Dakota, where rain is on everyone's mind. Greg Seltzer raises corn and soybeans, and this is his first year as a Pioneer seed dealer. Farmers in the area are quickly wrapping up corn and soybean planting due to dry conditions and could use a rain to help emergence.
Started planting earlier, got off to a good start, but we just haven't seen any substantial rainfall since our snow melt. Corn emergence is good for the most part, but a couple fields need a rain to get it to even out, and the soybeans are definitely, a lot of them are in dry dirt.
Meanwhile, just down the road in Milner, Jeff Leon farms with his father Marshall and cousin Casey. The Leons are finishing spraying corn and moving to soybeans to try to get an early treatment of dicamba on.
So we're hoping to get an early treatment of dicamba on. Some of them that we know we can't get it on because the neighboring fields we've put pre-emerge on, but try to get it on earlier with the temperature a little lower and watch the drift, and now that everybody kind of is aware of what it can do, hopefully it's better.
The Leons planted All Extend soybeans and are hoping for less off-target dicamba drift issues in 2018. Farmers would generally welcome a rain in the region, but when will it come? Here's John with your agri-weather outlook.
The U.S. Drought Monitor tells only a small part of the story. This is a deep moisture profile. So across the Dakotas and northern Minnesota, for the most part, rivers are running relatively normally. Sloughs have water in them, but the topsoil is very dry. We just have not had very much thunderstorm chances since the snow melted mid-April. So really much of this area is either listed as dry, moderate, or severe in terms of drought, but the topsoil is severely dry. The serious drought in the U.S. is down down south. A couple of good thunderstorms won't fix this. In the northern plains, you just get one of those good 2-3 inch rains, and we'll be right back to just looking just fine. Most of the corn belt's actually in pretty good shape right now. So what are we going to do to affect all this? Well, the pattern right now is showing a little ridging over the Rockies. Weather this week looks a little more mild across the northern plains, so there will be a narrow region of fairly hot weather. By hot, I mean 90s. Southern plains will be a few hundreds. That'll briefly spread up to about Iowa before it heads south. For the most part, you're talking just warm 70s and 80s this week. And moving forward to the second week, it's actually going to be still about the same, maybe a couple of brief cool downs. In other words, near average temperatures for the first half of June. Rain showers fairly widely scattered this course of this week. Best chances of rain coming around midweek, and then perhaps again very late in the week we may see a second round pass up into the area sometime around Saturday or Sunday or so. But again, fairly widely scattered stuff. Next week, maybe it's beginning to look like something spreading across the northern plains sometime around Father's Day. So overall, as we settle into the June pattern, milder weather northern plains than it's been, some areas of heat getting up into the central plains and the Midwest. June storms give us our typical problems. It's inconsistent. Some areas will continue to be much too dry.
Total Ag Industries is the leader in total control. The future of ceramic nozzle technology is here today with the Total Ag Air Induction Turbo Nozzle, the only ceramic triple spray nozzle on the market. Works with all sprayers for better weed control and wheel tracks. Are you ready for a longer lasting sprayer nozzle? Call 701-636-4524 for 10% off your first order or go to totalag.com to learn more.
Get ready for the biological revolution. Enhanced by Ag Concepts is a scientifically designed foliar fertilizer formulated to quickly deliver essential nutrients to your crops for the greatest possible yields.
I had a hail incident and I only had maybe beans that were 4 inches tall. I put some Enhance out. That seemed to really bring my beans back. Got 40 bushel beans compared to a 0. That's the best dollar ever spent.
Join the biological revolution with Enhance by Ag Concepts.
Micro Essentials is a premium phosphate product. It's a dry granular product. The main difference with a Micro Essentials type product is you have a homogeneous granule for the nitrogen, the sulfur, the phosphorus, and in this case the zinc is all in one granule. If you ever have a desire or a need to learn more about what does sulfur do within a soybean plant, what does the potassium do for the corn crop, we have microessentials.com. We also have a great resource, cropnutrition.com.
Advanced Grain Handling is your regional dealer for grain handler dryers, bins, and accessories. With Grain Handler's continuous mixed flow drying systems, you're capable of high levels of grain dryer efficiency on all types of grain, including seed grain. Advanced Grain Handling also carries West Steel's quality stainless steel products for on-farm and commercial grain storage solutions. Advanced Grain Handling has licensed and trained service techs and a licensed electrical shop. Get a hold of Chad Kylo to find the perfect solution for your farm.
Every year, 40% of all food in the U.S. never gets eaten.
40%. That's almost half the food we produce.
Food waste is a serious problem. It impacts all of us.
And it's expensive. Your family is throwing $1,500 a year in the trash.
We're working hard to put food waste on the chopping block.
And you can do the same at home.
Learn how to cook it, store it, and share it.
Just don't waste it.
Go to SaveTheFood.com.
The Ag Week Soil Health Minute is sponsored by the North Dakota Corn Council and the North Dakota Soybean Council.
Farmers are taking interseeding corn to the next level with variable rate planting. This week, Dr. Abby Wick revisits a field from last year's Soil Health Minute to see how cereal rye looks that was broadcast into corn at different rates.
We're back in a field that we filmed last summer for the Soil Health Minute, where a farmer was variable rate seeding his cereal rye into his standing corn at side dress. He was broadcasting 60 pounds in the lower part of the field, and he was broadcasting only 10 pounds on the higher part of the field. His goal was to use higher rates in the lower part of the field where he needed to use moisture, and use lower rates on the upper part of the field where he needed to conserve moisture. So he would get moisture management effectively for each of the soil types in those areas. Most commonly when farmers are interseeding cover crops into corn, they turn the chopping head off and leave the stalk standing. This helps with decreasing the amount of residue that's on the soil surface. In the low part of the field, you can see where he had 60 pounds of cereal rye and has formed a nice green mat underneath the corn stalks. On the hilltops, where he only has 10 pounds of cereal rye broadcast, he has a less dense stand and he's conserving moisture. This year, the farmer will plant soybean into this living cereal rye, but he'll watch it to make sure it doesn't use too much moisture overall. Interseeding corn is a great way to get cover crops into rotation, and then taking it a step further by using variable rate across the field can help you manage moisture more efficiently.
Coming up, an ethanol plant expansion yields a new livestock feed source. AgWeek is excited to bring you the AgWeek app with useful features and the latest news and information right at your fingertips. Get your AgWeek news, weather, and the latest episodes of AgweekTV. Plus, see real-time information on the futures market and view local cash bids for your crops. Stay updated and take AgWeek with you wherever you are. Download the AgWeek app today.
Where do you go for the latest news in agriculture? AgWeek magazine. Reaching over 70,000 farmers and ranchers in North Dakota, Minnesota, South Dakota, and Montana. AgWeek provides the most up-to-date information on the markets, the trends, and the people who make it all happen. We're your source for news, not fluff. Dependable, trusted. AgWeek. Subscribe today by calling 1-800-811-2580.
I'm Jenny Garth, and as a mother of 3, I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. But here in America, that is a real worry for 1 in 5 children. Even though we are one of the most food-rich countries in the world, 15 million children don't know where their next meal is coming from. This is unacceptable, and something the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks is working to solve. Instead of accepting that our country lets billions of pounds of surplus food go to waste every year, Feeding America has made it their mission to help families in need by rescuing this food. Through food pantries and meal programs, the nationwide network of food banks provides more than 3 billion meals, serving virtually every community in the United States, including yours. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by visiting feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
The Poet plant near Mitchell, South Dakota has ceremonially broken ground on a $5 million expansion. The plans are to expand equipment on site, including its Dakota Gold pellet business, which uses distillers' grain from ethanol production and forms it into pellets for animal feed. The upgrades at the plant are the first of their kind for the company.
We're able to take the product that's a loose meal product today that is susceptible to wind blow, shrink, and those types of things in the pasture conditions. We're able to convert it into a pelleted material, which is much more usable.
Poet is marketing its product as Dakota Gold Pro Pellets, which is more digestible and easier to handle, plus it has a lower ration cost. The facility will produce 70 to 100,000 tons per year. The project should be finished by Labor Day. Thanks for watching this week's edition of AgweekTV. Remember, for all your ag news, go to agweek.com or download the AgWeek app. And be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. See you next week.